morning to everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Sandton Amateur Radio Club Bulletin 25. You are listening to the club station of the Sandton Amateur Radio Club, Zulu Sierra 6, Sierra Tango November, which is operated today from the Shack of Mark, Zulu Sierra 6, Mike Delta X-Ray. This club bulletin is broadcast every Sunday at 08:45 local time on the following frequencies: 145/700 megahertz FM in the 2-meter band, 7.115 megahertz lower side band in the 40-meter band via relay from the Shack of Knoll, Zulu Romeo 6 Delta X-Ray. We're also on the Echo Link on Zulu Sierra 6, Sierra Tango November Romeo. And for those of you who maybe missed the bulletin, the recordings are uploaded to the club's YouTube channel on www.youtube.com/ZS6STN, together with the recordings of the club's Power Hour Tech Talks. Agenda for the bulletin today: we'll go over a summary of the South African Radio League news, we'll share the club birthdays, some club news, a special topic of interest, and we'll have call-ins and swap shop on 40 meters and 2 meters. We'll commence with the SARL bulletin. Good morning and welcome to the South African Radio League bulletin. This will be a summary of the bulletin. The full bulletin will be broadcast by the Radio League later and is also available on the website. First of all, there's some sad news. We regret to announce that Sydney Friedman, Zulu Sierra 6, Sierra India Delta, also Zulu Sierra 5, Sierra India Delta, went silent on Monday, August the 25th, 2025. Our sincere condolences go out to his brother, Joseph, his family, and all his friends. Okay, in the news today, we've got some exciting events on the horizon. The South African Radio League National Field Day is coming up. 2 clubs, we know 3 clubs that will be participating in the competition. There was a very good amateur radio on the International Space Station contact with students from the Orion Primary School in Bulletin, which was a huge success on Friday. And there's a very exciting Lesotho Micro DX expedition. We're set to take on 10 peaks, all above 3,000 meters later on in September. Starting with the South African Radio League National Field Day and the VHF, UHF, FM contest then. The second leg of the South African Radio League Field Day is just around the corner, taking place on September the 6th and the 7th. The Bulletin Amateur Radio Club, operating as Zulu Sierra 9 Kilo, will be on the air from the Anesberg Mountains, while the West Rand Amateur Radio Club, Zulu Sierra 6 Whiskey Romeo, will also be active. The Sandton Amateur Radio Club will have a very station out in at the Caravan Park, out in the Machalis, and there's a good turnout expected for that as well. This is a fantastic opportunity for all HF operators and outdoor enthusiasts. We can make it a fun weekend of radio activity by taking the family camping or setting up a backyard station at your clubhouse. We also challenge all clubs to get active and show their members what amateur radio is all about. The event will also feature activity on the VHF and UHF FM bands, which is perfect for younger members to get a taste of contesting. We hope to hear you in the log next weekend. Get the date out into your diaries there. Okay, let's talk about the amateur radio on the International Space Station contest. The Orion Primary School in Alberton had an incredible day on August the 29th with a successful direct contact with the International Space Station. The event, which was streamed live, allowed students to ask questions directly to the astronaut Mike Fink, Kilo Echo 5 Alpha India. Congratulations to Dr. Gerard Gericke, ZS6 Charlie Romeo Sierra, and the dedicated team from the Alberton Amateur Radio Interest Group who made this possible. The South African Radio League was well represented at this remarkable event, which did a wonderful job of promoting amateur radio to a new generation. Okay, learn some more about amateur radio here. AMSAT South Africa and the South African Radio League have made the media scatter communication webinar video available on YouTube. Zulu Sierra 5 Yankee explains how to bounce your signal off a shooting star using the MSK 144 mode. This is a fascinating way for VHF and UHF operators to make contacts over long distances. If you're interested in learning more about satellites, there are 2 excellent satellite publications available: Amateur Radio Satellite for Beginners and the ARRL Satellite Handbook. Both are in stock and can be ordered from the online bookshop at amateurradio.org.za. Also, just to make it even more interesting, a new dual-band handheld satellite Yagi for 2 meters and 70 centimeters has been released. The Mark III version is easier to transport and is even being used by the ARRL for their educational projects. You can find more information and an order form for this on the AMSAT SA website. On to the very exciting news on this, and that's the Lesotho Micro DX expedition. Also some Pico balloon news. Sid Zulu Sierra 5 Alpha Yankee Charlie and Adele Zulu Sierra 5 Alpha Papa Tango are pleased to announce that Lesotho will be registered as a Summit on the Air Society on the 1st of September. This is a great addition with 103 registered peaks. Thanks very much to Sid and Adele for the big effort they put into this, and Brandon as well. To celebrate this, Brandon Zitzman, Zulu Sierra 6 Lima Zulu, will embark on a Lesotho Micro DX expedition to traverse the Maloti-Drakensberg escarpment. He plans to activate 10 summits, all about 3,000 meters, about 100 kilometers of hiking and climbing. So it's about 5,000 meters worth of climbing in there as well. It will operate as 7 Papa 8 Lima Zulu, a Lesotho license, with support from Matthew Farquharson, Zulu Sierra 6 Mike Delta Victor, Keith, Zulu Sierra 6 Hotel India, and myself, ZS6 Mike Delta X-Ray, Christy, ZS4 Charlie Golf Romeo, and a dedicated safety team. We wish them all the best on their incredible journey. Chasers should keep an eye on the SOTA spotting groups and the SOTA watch for updates. This is sure to be some really good peaks there. 10 peaks is going to be a big one. They're all big number peaks, big point peaks as well. In other news, the ZS4 Sierra Romeo Kilo Pico balloon is on an exciting journey. Launching on August the 23rd, it's been flying about 11,500 meters over the Pacific Ocean, drifting further north than many previous Pico balloons. We're keeping our receivers active to see where it will report from next. The Secunda Amateur Radio Club is challenging other clubs to launch their own Pico balloons. You can contact Gideon Yanash, Zulu Sierra 4 Golf Juliet Alpha, if you're interested in a bulk order of parts. There's a propagation report and some upcoming events as well. Hannes Kutsia, Zulu Sierra 6 Bravo Zulu Papa, reports that solar activity is expected to be low to moderate levels this week, with high probability of C-class and moderate probability of M-class solar flares. The 30 to 15 meter bands may provide some good DX fun. Looking this morning, it was interesting to see that the SFI was overnight went over 300 and it's back up to the early 200s at the moment, which augurs well for some DX later this week. Finally, some upcoming events to put into your diary. Keep in mind this September 6th and 7th, next weekend, the South African Radio League National Field Day and the South African Radio League VHF, UHF, FM contest. It's going to be a good one. So September the 7th is the lunar eclipse over South Africa. September the 13th and 14th, the Zulu Sierra SOTA Spring Weekend, another one to get into the diary is find a summit and let's get out there. September the 16th, the start of the South African Radio League 6-meter challenge, and on September the 24th, National Bride Day, to make sure we get the stakes ready for that. Okay, it's now time to move on to the club members' birthdays and club news. So club members' birthdays for the week ahead: Zulu Sierra 6 Echo Golf Sierra Eric's Golf on the 1st of September, Zulu Sierra 6 Oscar Golf Oliver Gerionda on the 5th of September, Zulu Sierra 6 Bravo Oscar Romeo Barent Roberts 6th of September, and another one also on the 6th of September, which is Zulu Sierra 6 Charlie Uniform and Ace. Congratulations and best wishes to all on the celebration of their birthdays. Okay, now for some Sandton Club news. Yeah, the Sandton Club represented by Zulu Sierra 6 Lima Zulu Brandon, Zulu Sierra 6 Mike Delta Victor Matthew, ZS6 HI Keith, ZS6 Juliet Golf Papa Justin, along with a few more OMs and guests, will be setting up a couple of field stations at the Sleepy River Caravan Park near Magaliesburg next weekend for the South African Radio League Field Day. Be sure to drop in and see the stations in action from Friday evening through to Sunday, about midday. Drop in, spend some time there. It's always good to see and get to the club spirit going, and also to see how much we can get to some good DX, some good antennas have been planned by the team, and I'm so sure it's going to be a very exciting day on Saturday and Sunday. The HF assessments will continue in September and October with Gerrit, and dates and times will be announced of the HF assessments. We had a very successful one thanks to Keith, ZS6HI, and the team on about a week and a half ago. Okay, I'm just going to stand by now. I'm going to see if Keith is perhaps on frequency, if there's any additional club news. ZS6HI, ZS6STN standing by.
ZS6STN, this is ZS6HI.
HI, ZS6STN. Thanks very much, Keith. I don't know if you have any additional club news that didn't get into the bulletin. If so, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mark. Coming through loud and clear into my QTH this morning. Yes, you mentioned Field Day at the Sleepy River Caravan Park, and I think that's an excellent outing for families and for members to come out and have a look. So I'm not going to repeat too much of that, but do please diarise to get out there next weekend. I know that some of the team will be out there from the Thursday having a little bit of a social, and then Friday evening, just before we start on 10 o'clock, we start at 10 o'clock on the Saturday morning with the contest, and that goes through to midday on the Sunday. So during that time, there will be some operators on the radio, but some operators won't be on the radio as well, and everyone can have an opportunity if they would like to do so. We will be running the ZS6STN call sign. That's the club call sign, and so that's the training call sign. Everybody can have a go using the train call sign, and you must listen out there, please, and make contact with the club station. We need as many contacts as we can possibly get. We're still tackling for first place now. We have been through first place for the last 3 field day contests, and if we come through this one, we will win the contest for 2025 as well as the club station. I think we are going to be 5 Alpha Golf Papa, 5 Alpha Golf Papa. That'll mean we've got 5 transmitters in play. It's a Alpha station, which is a multi-user, multi-transmitter station, multi-operator, multi-transmitter station, and Golf Papa being obviously in Gauteng. So you mentioned a little bit about the RAE. The RAE is pumping, so very well done to Ferret and all the lecturers and the team. And Mark mentioned the last HF assessment that we had, and the next one's coming up, as well as an antenna build. So I know that Ferret is busy arranging the parts that are needed for the antenna build, and that will also be scheduled where we will be building linked dipoles. So all those who are interested in getting involved and building a linked dipole, we are going to ask you to put your names into the hat, and then if you're willing to pay, I'm not sure exactly what the cost is at the moment. I'm sure Ferret will tell me, but it's going to be around 300 to 400 Rand for all the parts to build your own linked dipole, and we will have a wonderful day doing that as well. In the club meeting this last Wednesday of August, we had a few attendees at the clubhouse, not as many as desired, but we did have a few attendees. That was great. Thank you very much for coming through. And Matthew showed us a digital modes Raspberry Pi that he had built for using in the field when you're away from cell networks and internet networks and so on. It's a standalone little Raspberry Pi. It can get with a little hat on it. It can get GPS. It's a tiny little thing that Matthew put together, and this is really for the expedition in Lesotho that he put this little design together, so that when Brandon is up there sitting lonely in his tent on the top of some peak or the other, he can actually pick up his cell phone or his tablet or whatever he might have with him, and if he's got enough battery power, he can use digital modes to make contact as well. So it's an awesome little goodie. You must speak to Matthew ZS6MDV about that and see how it all works. Then we also spoke about Chirp, the software program Chirp, which is used for programming a multitude of handy talkies. So if you are still programming a handy talkie by entering the details on the front panel, I would suggest you have a look at Chirp, because it can make your life a lot easier. And you've got that program consistent there as well, and you can copy paste, and you can read a new radio and then upload the file to a new radio and so on. It also does allow you to do all the setup fields, not just the frequencies and that you want to put into the radio. So if you haven't ever used Chirp and you're still programming the hard way, do have a look at Chirp. And then we have announced briefly that the AGM will take place on the 24th of September. So the 24th of September at the clubhouse in Bryanston, and we would like as many members to participate as possible physically at the clubhouse. We're also going to have not just the AGM, but the SGM. There is going to be a special resolution to be considered that Brandon has put forward as the chairman, and we will be putting that to members as well. It will be a hybrid AGM, SGM, so for those who are unable to get through to the clubhouse for whatever reason, then you will still be able to participate over the internet to that AGM, SGM. So please put that in your diaries, 24th of September, and we will start taking registrations from 6 o'clock in the evening, and then at 6:15 in the evening, South African time, we will start with the AGM. And it is our club, so we would really like everyone to participate in that AGM. If you have nominations for people to fill various portfolios, then there is also a online form which you can use to RSVP, as well as to put in your proxies. So watch out for that. We'll send more details to everybody shortly. And then, there will not be a Power Hour Tech Talk that evening, simply because we will be holding our AGM. You mentioned, Brandon, climbing all those mountains and hiking 100 kilometers marks. I'm not going to talk about that. Happening starting on the 17th of September. Very, very exciting, and it will help if everyone tracks Brandon across those mountains, and he's going to have very short time windows to actually activate those peaks. So if you want to activate those peaks as a chaser, you're going to have to be very conscientious about being at your radio at the right time. Otherwise, you will lose out to be activating one of those peaks. And we will be broadcasting when he's activating which peak at what time, so that people can prepare themselves and chase for those peaks. So awesome, that's SOTA. Then there's the SOTA weekend. The following weekend is the 13th and 14th of September is SOTA weekend. And that's where a lot of people will go out onto the various mountains, koppies, and so on. And, I always suggest that why don't you take your radio out and go to a park as well on the 17th, over that weekend, of the 13th, 14th of September. The date has changed from when it was in the diary, because that's the same SOTA Day as the International SOTA Day. And it'll be awesome to be able to make parks to SOTA, POTA to SOTA, and SOTA to POTA, and POTA to POTA, and SOTA to SOTA contacts, as well as obviously for all of us chasers. So put that into your diary as well. And then finally, the Baycar launch in October. I think it's scheduled for the 11th of October. I should know this because I'm going to be flying a package. But on the October the 11th, I think it's the 11th of October, the Secunda Amateur Radio Club will be flying their Baycar weather balloon again. And we have 2 packages coming through from Sandton members. So we will start publishing all the details of those packages as well. But there will be crossband repeaters for your use. There will be SSTV transmissions, both on VHF and UHF, for your pickup and use, and even a contest that goes with the Sandton one, where you can win a Take-A-Lot voucher if you pick up the clues from the SSTV images, and you're able to decode the clue and then provide your answer. And then there will also be APRS and LoRa beacons running. I think they've got quite a lot of... and there's also going to be a package that they drop at one point during the balloon that then tracks back to the launch site. So this is a very interesting Baycar balloon launch this time around, with a lot more going on that I've actually mentioned now. But we will publish all those details to members as soon as they become available. I think that's probably enough from me there, Mark. ZS6MDX, ZS6HI.
ZS6HI, ZS6STN returning. Thanks very much, Keith. A full and a packed agenda. Nobody can say that Sandton Amateur Radio Club is got no activities or there's not much to do. It's plenty to do and plenty diary dates to diarize there. Just a couple of things just to feed back on. I think field day next weekend. If you guys can come out to the Sleepy River Caravan Park, if anybody's close by or wants to take a nice day trip, it's worth coming out. The SOTA weekend on the 13th and 14th of September. If you're going to activate a peak or you want to activate a park, lots of new parks that are due for activation up in definitely in the Johannesburg area. There's a good amount of parks that are going to be there. I'll be activating most likely myself out at the Botanical Gardens. And then there's all that's on the 13th to 14th. On the 17th to the 22nd of September, please Chase Brandon and the team is putting in a lot of effort and a lot of hard work into making this a successful summit on the air to mini expedition. And to the extent that both him and Matt both obtained their Lesotho licenses, there's a lot of logistics that have been planned for this, and it'll be great to get as many chasers going there as possible as well, to chase Brandon as he chases up and down those peaks. Raspberry and Blackberry, that's also very interesting antenna build. Put that in your diary. And then the backfall launch on the 11th of October next month. Another one to put in. Big one, of course, is the AGM and a special general meeting, 24th September. Just get it down there, 6 o'clock in the evening on the 24th of September. If you're not in town and you can't make it to the actual venue, Mr. Creek has mentioned that it will be available online as well. So by all means, we can all dial in then and support and vote and make sure we are representing our club properly. Okay, great stuff there. That's great news, and thanks very much for all of the inputs there, Keith. Let's lots to get involved in and contribute to. Please do join in, and if you're uncertain now, drop us a line on the WhatsApp group or send an email to info@ZS6STN.org.za. So let's get on to today's topic of interest. I mentioned earlier about the old solar flux index, going over 300 during the night. Above 200 looking for most of this week ahead, which usually augurs pretty well for DX and planning your DX activities. There's a lot of work done around forecasting and what does this mean. We're all familiar with the Voice of America planning tool, GoACap, and there's a lot of other interesting tools at the moment available on the internet to plan your DX and when's the optimal times to go and shoot to try for some DX and so on, where to aim your antennas and what to do, which frequencies are open and so on. It's not only for scientists or so on, but the main thing is about the solar activity. For decades, the standard for predicting solar activity has been modeled in the joint NASA NOAA and ISED expert panel. It's known as the NNI model. There's a new model that's been developed called a competing theory, called by a guy's name is McIntosh, and they've got a thing called the Terminator event. It's a key theoretical concept they call the Terminator event. This event marks the definitive end of one sunspot cycle, a magnetic activity, and the beginning of the next. And the crucial part is the timing of the Terminator. Is theorized to influence the strength and the period of the next cycle. It's an 11-year cycle on the sunspots, and at the moment we've just gone through a peak. It looks like it's starting to get a bit of a second breath, which will be fantastic, but we need to see how that plays up. But they've always used this one model. Now the second, there's a new model to try and make this a bit more accurate and a bit more scientific. The findings are quite remarkable. At the midpoint of the current solar cycle, cycle 25, the McIntosh team's forecast is proving to be more accurate than the NNI's revised forecast. In fact, the NNI model is consistently underestimated sunspot numbers, while the McIntosh model's predictions align more closely with what we're actually observing. This empirical evidence strongly favors the new paradigm. But is a more accurate forecast enough to spark a revolution here? The second metric, scientific adoption, suggests that it is. The McIntosh team's research is gaining significant traction within the scientific community. A bibliometric analysis of their two papers shows a sharp increase in citations and high attention scores, ranking them in the top 5% of all research articles in their respective fields. This isn't just one team making a bold claim. It's a new idea that's resonating with researchers across the globe. The conclusion is that we are witnessing a state of direct model competition, and the full paradigm revolution is most likely underway. The evidence is stacking up. It's pointing in one direction. The McIntosh model is the future of solar forecasting. So what does this mean for the amateur radio community? Well, we should be aware that we should care about the differences between these models, because it's profoundly important, to understand radio wave propagation better. As you know, our ability to make contacts, especially in the high frequency band, is directly tied to the sun's activity. The more sunspots there are, the more active the sun. The better the ionosphere becomes at reflecting radio waves back to Earth. In short, more sunspots equals better long-distance propagation. This is where the Macintosh model becomes a bit of a game changer for our hobby. The model's key advantages are improved accuracy and a stronger solar cycle forecast. So, I think these are the models also forecasting a stronger solar cycle than the traditional one. It's pretty interesting to see how this all stacks up, and it makes up predictions, which frequencies to use, what bands are open, when they're open, and so on, and how that relates to the sunspot activity, the solar flux index, as well as the K indexes and so on, how that all ties together. It's a very interesting article, full article on this. Gets quite detailed. It's very interesting, and it's a full article by Kilo 4 Foxtrot Mike Hotel Frank Howell, and it's available on the internet if you want to do searches for the Macintosh model solar cycle forecast accuracy. So have a look at that. I hope it was of interest to people, especially it looks like we're getting a bit of a second bite at the apple, if you like, for the DX on cycle 25. It seems to be going up. It went down quite significantly in July, and looks like it's coming back up now. That's it, guys. We call it quits there. Thanks to everyone out there for listening in and for your interest and participation this morning. We always like to get the feedback, get a bit of a net going at the end. We trust you've enjoyed the bulletin, and please do feel free to contribute ideas, comments, or any constructive criticism to info@ZS6STN.org.za. And as always, thank you to all the stations who assisted with the relays, those who contribute to the content from time to time. Join us next Sunday at 8:45 Central African Time for the regular bulletin of the Sandton Amateur Radio Club. This brings to a close the weekly club bulletin of the Sandton Amateur Radio Club Zulu Sierra 6 STN, today operated by Mark, Zulu Sierra 6 Mike Delta X-Ray from Krugersdorp. Thank you to you all. Lots of 73s. ZS6 Sierra Tango November now relinquishes all frequencies for general use. Thanks very much.